Hey, everybody. Welcome to Tech Recess. It's a casual Tech Recess Friday, as you can tell. Ben's rocking the hoodie today, and I'm rocking a non-collared shirt. I don't even know what you call these things, just a long sleeve t-shirt. Anyway, casual
Tech
Tech
shirt.
Recess. So I'm your host, Mike Larry. That's Ben Boyd. Ben, why don't you tell the people a little bit about yourself? I always go first, and I always feel rude. I want to give you the opportunity to speak first today.
Oh, a little bit about myself. Well, I feel like, the 15 people watching already kind of know me, and they probably already watched uh, the previous introduction. So I don't really want to talk about myself, but I do want to thank you for watching, all of you viewers. Thank you for subscribing. We seem to get a new subscriber every day or so. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. If you have comments, if you have questions, if you want to make fun of how I look or how Mike looks or how our guest speaks or spells or anything like that, please put those comments in the YouTube chat channel.
Yeah.
And there might be some viewers here to pad our numbers a little bit because I've sent a lot of solicitation text messages out just recently. But I'm all for people adding to our numbers and just typing gibberish into our comment
I'm
section.
all for gibberish. I'm an avid proponent of gibberish. So is this the episode where we officially just bail on doing introductions now? Are we just done with this?
I don't know if we bail completely, but I'm done for today. I've had 3 hours of sleep.
I am seeing something cool. I'm not picking up the wires on your headphones, so you have this black thing levitating on your head in these giant cans. It looks pretty cool. I
Oh,
like
that's weird.
it. So, what about Tech Recess in general? For people that don't know what Tech Recess is, would you care to enlighten them, or do you want me to do it, sir?
Oh man, I would care to enlighten them.
Enlighten.
So I think Tech Recess is kind of an evolution of the Mike and Ben and Mike show. We've been friends for the past 15 years or 20. I can't even remember anymore. And we've done webinars, we've done presentations together, we've got up and spoken together and done classes together. And we just like hanging out and teaching the masses, and we like technology, and we like geeking out about cool stuff. And I think this is just a kind of a way for us to say we're making this public. We're going out there and we want to educate the masses on anything. The last few episodes have been business continuity, they've been deep learning and business risk management. And today we're talking about some SD-WAN and SASE and I don't know what else we're going to get into with this guy, but no, I think just this is an evolution of us just geeking out and helping others learn more about whatever it is we want to know
Let it be publicly known that's the last time I give you the floor at the beginning because you just rambled way too long. So I will never make that mistake and give you that opportunity again. That's my fault,
about.
everybody. I take responsibility.
I told you I have no sleep last night.
You did warn me, and I had a headache this morning, so I'm kind of struggling. But we're gonna make our way through. We're gonna push through. Somehow we will persevere. So I'm excited about today's episode. Like Ben said, we're gonna be talking SD-WAN with somebody, and I'm excited to have our guest on today. But before we jump into it, our first segment is Ben's timeout corner because he just fails continuously to play well with others. So I got to put him in the corner to make him think about what he's done. So Ben, go to your timeout corner.
Oh, I'm in timeout again. I knew this was coming because you told me last week this was coming. And to address Aaron's comment, no, a new child is not here yet. We're still about 3.5 weeks away from that new child. So that then I will actually pray for 3 hours of sleep. What am I going to talk about? I knew this was coming. I posted something on LinkedIn that got like 10,000 views and something like 40 likes or something like that. And I didn't realize that it would go viral or whatever. But I am really kind of ashamed and upset that a well-known vendor would disparage another well-known vendor when it comes to selling their product. And I don't know why they would do that. Usually what I've seen in the industry for the past 10 or so years is, here's what makes us better. Here's why we are so good at what we do. This is what makes us uniquely awesome. And go buy our product, or go buy our service, or go talk to so and so about what we do. And this article that came out from vendor A, I won't drop names, but it was basically just bashing another one. And I just don't think that's right. And especially in today's industry, in today's world, with the pandemic going on, where everybody is working together. Even though you have competitors out there, they're both giving free trials, and they're both giving free. I've got Mike in the background telling me I'm talking way too much. So they're both giving me they're both giving the world ways to collaborate better, and ways to give back. And to see negativity going on today, I just don't think that's a good idea. So that's my rant. If you're in sales, if you're in product marketing, if you're any sort of that in any sort of that process, I think you could do better by focusing on who you are and not who you aren't. And I'm done.
So, official Tech Recess policy, you need at least 5 to 6 hours of sleep. Otherwise, that day's episode is canceled. I need the Ben with the brain that can form a coherent sentence, not one that just rambles on for 5 minutes. I need you to get it together. You're making it hard for me to have it together, and this is supposed to be a team effort. I need one of us has got to really start picking it up.
We can't be on point all the time. We had a great Tech Recess Tuesday with Patrick Sheehan, so we've got to kind of
Ben, with the exception of just the technical issues that were out of our control in the first one, we've had 3 really good episodes, man. So our guest today has some big shoes to fill. He's got to make a topic that has been just blasted in people's faces over and over again recently actually sound interesting. So he's got a challenge ahead of him, and he's got the 2 of us to contend with. So that's saying enough. So today, our next segment is show and tell, obviously. And we don't have a sponsor for today to fill this portion of the show with. So Ben, would you just use this time as a platform to talk about sponsorship and what it can do for people, and why we give them this opportunity and what this is about?
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't want to talk for too long or ramble incoherently. So I'll keep it short. A sponsorship for this show doesn't really ever involve anything big. Really, it's just a chance for you to show your product, show your service, show who you are to our viewers. And if you feel like giving away free things, t-shirts to commenters or what have you, knickknacks, however, I think that would be a cool way to get involved in what we're doing today. Definitely no bashing allowed in the show and tell segment if you do become a sponsor.
I am just taking a glance in the chat. We've got a rowdy bunch in there today. All right, so that's it for show and tell. Thank you so much. So let's jump into today's topic. And I'm excited and I'm not excited about today's topic because, like I've kind of said, it's something that I've heard over and over and over again. And when you've been in the industry as long as Ben and I and our peers have at this point, you've gone through these phases of buzzwords where, it starts with next-gen firewall, and then it starts with artificial intelligence being involved in certain areas of networking and security. And there's just buzzword after buzzword that everybody, just from a marketing perspective, jumps on, and then everybody has to have their own offering based around that buzzword. And so this is kind of a buzzword that we've heard around the industry for quite some time. And I'm anxious to see how our guest speaker today makes it interesting to us who have heard it and talked about it and lived it and breathed it for about the last 5 years. So today's speaker that's joining us is a longtime friend of Ben and myself. Just a quick disclaimer, there is a relationship there that goes back many, many years. I met this gentleman at the Technical Assistance Center at Altel Communications back in the early early 2000s, where he was cutting his teeth on DSL networks and learning how to do just a lot of really cool things at that time when T1s and ISDNs kind of ruled the world. He actually helped teach me. He taught me a lot of things when I came into that role as well. He trained me, and maybe that's why I have a lot of the bad habits that I still have today. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying. I don't have much more to say about him other than he's a technically sharp person who has evolved in his career path just like everybody else that's around my age has at this point. He's a Christian. He's a good husband. He's a great father. And that's the reason why he and I have been friends for so long, is because he's got a good heart. It's not because he's technically sharp or because he's been a good engineer. Now he has a good managerial background. I don't even want to say what his title is because it seems like it changes about every 3 weeks with all the reorganization stuff going on back there. He's had lots of different responsibilities. His territory has shifted time and time again over the past few years. So help me welcome Ben, our guest speaker of the day, Eric Bull. Eric, good to see you, buddy. Thank you so much for joining Ben and I today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I was looking for a Kleenex here. I was going to start crying.
I wasn't going to be that kind, man. So you're here to talk with our people. You actually work for Windstream Communications. Can you tell them what your current role is there at Windstream?
Currently, I'm a sales engineering manager. I have a huge territory. It covers Texas up to Oklahoma over to West Virginia. Some pockets there that belong to other people, but it's a rather large territory. I have a team of 12 engineers to support all the local markets, and we're busy. It's a busy time for us right now.
So with it being such a large territory for you, how has your daily life changed recently with this pandemic that we're dealing with? Because typically, I would see you more oftentimes in the airport than I would outside of anywhere else. You and I would just coincidentally happen to be catching the same flight out to Atlanta because we're going to work because we always travel. So with the inability to travel now, what does your daily life look like?
It's totally 180 from what it was. The last time I left the house was on March 9th when I was flying to San Antonio for the day, and I have not left the house really since then. I think I took some food to some of our relatives and some of the elderly in the family a couple times, but that's literally it.
Well, if you could take food to relatives, you got off rather easy, because Ben had to ship toilet paper and other items to New York, and he ended up spending like 8 times what the items' values were in just shipping alone. So I'd say you got off easy.
I did. All of our families here local, so it's pretty easy. But
that's
flip
nice.
side is my kids expect to go and see their grandparents and things like that, and haven't been able to go do that either. So it's been rather interesting.
Yeah, I was trying to think of when the last time was that I went on an engagement where I actually hopped on a plane and traveled somewhere. And I honestly couldn't think of it. I'd have to go back into my calendar to look back, because it's been, probably close to 2 months now. And it's just crazy how quickly our world specifically has changed, much less the world itself. So what has this COVID-19 crisis kind of done to the telecom space, to the carrier space these days? What are you seeing from your side, man?
We are very, very busy. Like I was saying, I have 12 engineers and I track their activity, and, we sell work from home solutions, mobility solutions. So we were able to immediately move home. And like I said, I came home March 9th and I've been working from home nonstop since then. And we transitioned really smoothly, but our customers didn't necessarily transition so smoothly. So
yeah.
I was seeing like a huge drop off in activity the first 2 weeks. Now I'm seeing our customer base is starting to get settled, and our activity is just steadily increased to the point where, since we were highly mobile before, and you know how time consuming that is, we're actually able to get more work done now since we're doing it virtually and not having to travel and things like that. So I'm seeing all-time highs as far as interactions between my sales engineers and their clients, and just the amount of work that we're able to get done. It's really interesting from that perspective.
Yeah, my boss actually told us to pencil in lunch because we don't have time for lunch because of all the calls. Like usually lunches would happen with customers or in between meetings going to and from places, but now it's you have an open spot in your calendar. I'm filling it today.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how many different things. Do what? Go ahead, Eric. Sorry.
So that's the way it's always been with, supporting a sales team, right? Your time is their time, right? So, we do our best to accommodate them. But you're right. I didn't eat lunch yesterday till 3 o'clock, and it kind of ruined my dinner.
Man, so when I reflect back on my time at Alltel and Windstream and all the time in the service provider space before I was a high-level engineer, one of the things that kind of jumps into my mind is what I would be thinking about today is like capacity planning. When I think about the capacity engineers and what it looks like now with workforce displacement, with everybody working from home, what impact has this had on capacity planning that you've been able to see? How is Windstream kind of handling this, so to speak?
And before you answer that, it kind of ties into one of our viewers' questions about how backbone traffic is holding up too. So kind of tie that into.
Yeah. So backbone traffic from us has actually been fine. So, carrier networks are built to handle peak load, which is typically between 6 p.m. and midnight, right, as it rolls across the country. And so what we're seeing now is actually an increase in the midday patterns. And even though we're seeing huge increases in midday patterns, our midday patterns are starting to hit 50, 60 percentile of our normal peaks. So, no problem whatsoever from that perspective. VPN usage across the network is up, over 30% in general as people are working from home. Because of the increases in the midday traffic, we're pushing more traffic across the network. And the last time I saw, we pushed, 3 petabytes more traffic per day than normal.
Wow.
But we're handling that traffic fine. I think a lot of the news is really focused around, the residential networks. And the residential networks, as y'all know, are totally different from the enterprise networks. The enterprise networks are connected directly to the PE routers and right to kind of the core network, so to speak, whereas the residential networks are built on shared access technologies. And so if you have more people at home during the middle of the day, your experience should be more like it is at night in general, right? And so if you live in an area where it's rural or older in terms of technology, you're going to see more lag and things like that during the day, but it should be pretty comparable to what you're experiencing at night as well, which is why it's important for enterprise customers to continue to realize that, even with things like SD-WAN, you can't just give up on good access methods, right? Because if your access is bad, it doesn't really matter what kind of technology you have, running your network.
Yeah, I think from an enterprise perspective, a lot of customers are aware of that. But when you talk about residential users, they don't really understand the importance or the impact of the last mile architecture of the network, what actually feeds their premises. Now we're seeing fiber to the prem deployments now, which is helping to alleviate that. But as far as how that rollout looks and serving all customers in North America, that's going to be quite some time before we'll probably see Starlink providing low latency connectivity before everybody has fiber to the prem offerings in their area. But yeah,
Doesn't Elon Musk drop at every episode?
I'm sorry, I'm on Team Elon, man. I can't help it. I'm a fanboy. I truly am.
The carrier networks, like the wireless carrier networks, have actually pushed the ability to increase the residential networks over the years, right? Because wireless is only wireless till it hits the tower, right? And then it's fiber back to the major providers' networks. And so with the push of 4G, we saw fiber getting built out into rural areas so everybody could race to say they had the largest map or the most bandwidth. And with 5G, the amount of access you need is just so much more in many access points. And so you're going to see fiber just moving more and more places, which inevitably will be a benefit to both the enterprise organizations if they want fiber to their last mile. It should be shorter, and for the residential customers to be able to have the ability for their carriers to come through and build out the network to provide more bandwidth to them.
So this is a lot of network talk, and I used to be a network engineer, and this is all great, but I care about security. I'm a security guy. I nerd out over security all the time. How does security fit into the offerings that you're seeing today through the COVID-19 crisis, but also just overall from an overall carrier perspective?
Security is interesting. When we were working together, all three of us, security wasn't really something we even thought about back then, right? And I think that security has gone from something where carriers can pretty much ignore and just make statements like, hey, I don't keep your data, therefore I'm not, purview to any of the PCI or HIPAA criteria, right? To the point where everybody realizes that security is important. And so you're seeing carriers like the one I work for and others, getting their products PCI and HIPAA certified because the customers expect it, right? Because being a good partner and knowing that your partners are taking care of their security is so important, because a lot of times you're seeing breaches now and it's through partners, not necessarily the company itself is having a problem, but maybe their partner wasn't living up to their security. But I think, in general, carrier security versus MSP security is just going to be different. And it's, just for scale reasons, right? If you want any off-the-shelf product, an MSP can get you that product. They'll find somebody who has the expertise there, and they'll spin it up for you as long as you have the money to pay for that. But larger carriers are always looking to scale, right? How do I scale this product to where I can support it, to where I can make it affordable? And so, the attack vectors are just going to continue to grow. And so I think that, it's a full-time stage just staying on top of security. So you're going to see carriers that are going to continue to evolve their platform, but they're not necessarily going to be able to delve into all those point products that a security vendor like Fortinet may have to offer, right? They're going to have to stick with more of the meat and potatoes offerings just because they can't scale the specific, point solutions to, mass needs.
Yeah, you just said something there that kind of hammered home a point to me. When you're talking about third-party vendors, like security is only as good as your weakest link in the chain. And if you're relying on third-party vendors, this is something that I talk about when I do some cybersecurity awareness training for some executive levels, is making sure that you do your due diligence with the security posture of the third-party vendors that you're working with. Otherwise, again, your security is only as weak as your weakest link. And if you're relying upon them, you're kind of putting all your eggs in one basket that you don't have control over. So today's topic is actually SD-WAN. I didn't come out and say it yet because we haven't covered anything up to this point that really just ties back to SD-WAN. And so SD-WAN is one of those buzzwords that over the last 5 years, man, we've just heard a lot of. Up until this point, it was MPLS, give me an MPLS circuit. Now it's, SD-WAN, you got to have software-defined wide area network. So you've seen multiple definitions and iterations of SD-WAN over the past few years. How would you personally, if somebody came up to you and said, hey, man, what is SD-WAN? How would you personally define it today?
I think it's right to be questioning the term SD-WAN because I don't think SD-WAN means anything more particular than the word car means, right? Is your car a Honda Civic or is your car a Tesla Model S, right? They're both cars, but the capabilities, the overall design approach, they're completely different, right?
Substantially different.
So, yeah, so to me, SD-WAN is about delivering upon the promises that we all were making 15 years ago when Cisco promised us self-healing networks, right? The carriers have gotten it down. We've been doing it for years, but on the enterprise WAN side, it's been costly and difficult to achieve. And so I look at it as SD-WAN as, an overall approach of, is it simple to use? Does it give you the network visibility you need? Does it give you the ease and flexibility of configurations you're looking at? It's the overall digital experience that separates one SD-WAN provider from another. Otherwise, you could just do it yourself with IPsec tunnels, right? So, low-end SD-WAN in my mind is really nothing more than automatic tunnels and a little bit of reporting, whereas high-end SD-WAN can be everything you get below end, but also not dropping your calls because they're using things like gateways in the cloud, or not just reporting, but analytics that can proactively notify you that, hey, this site's seen a 300% increase in traffic, things that actually give you intelligible information that you can use to make decisions on your network.
So how intelligent would you say SD-WAN is today compared to what it was about 5 years ago?
From that high level that you were speaking about, not the low level guys that we don't care about.
I would say, it's a lot better. SD-WAN, like any software product, is going to evolve over time. So I've seen things like, the ability to aggregate bandwidth has increased, right, as far as total throughput. I've seen really it's the intelligence around the actual core product that's increased, right? So like the analytics. And even where you have providers where, we offer multiple flavors of SD-WAN. But we have actually started to improve the SD-WAN products that we sell, right? We use the APIs that the SD-WAN providers give us. And then we have created our own data lakes. And we actually run our own intelligence and data gathering operations now to improve the overall flavor, with SD-WAN that you choose, right? So we can provide some consistency across the platform.
Okay. So would you tell me that SD-WAN is kind of more than just a buzzword? I mean, what exactly, how would you convey it today? I mean, I just know it's moved more into like being a commodity for everybody as something that we can empower our consumers with. So why is it more than just a buzzword? Like what can it empower your customers to do?
Sell us on SD-WAN,
Jesus,
Eric.
that's all I needed. Just sell me on it, because 5 years ago, all of my service provider friends, they were telling me, you just need an MPLS circuit. You just need an MPLS circuit. And over the last 5 years, that message has changed to, well, now you need SD-WAN, now you need SD networking. And to me, it just seems like a way for carriers to penetrate deeper into the consumer's network and end up subsequently getting more revenue out of them over the long haul. But sell me on it. Why do I need this?
Well, one thing I would say, not always is it going to be more revenue, right? So, SD-WAN is not a buzzword because what it actually can do for you, it actually is a great product. So if you are somebody that needs to save money and you need to move to cheaper access to do that, you can with SD-WAN. If you need residential access to lower your bill, you can do that. If you need more bandwidth and it's just not available without a really costly, fiber build, right? Add Comcast Business or, AT&T DSL or Uverse or whatever. Add something that's affordable that you can aggregate through an SD-WAN product and actually get more bandwidth. If you need better uptime, 100% uptime is not unachievable anymore, especially with a high-end product. With two wired connections and a wireless connection, a good SD-WAN solution should be basically 100% uptime. If you want to eliminate redundant programs, right? So, you've still got SolarWinds or some kind of monitoring tool sitting around your network and you want to get rid of it. The visibility that SD-WAN has built into it now pretty much makes that obsolete. If you don't have the ability to grow your staff and your network continues to get larger and larger and larger, a platform like SD-WAN that makes it simple to manage through a singular pane of glass gives you the flexibility to grow your network but not grow your staff, right? If you need to mix and match MPLS sites with SD-WAN sites, a carrier that has a high-end solution like we do can do that. We can tie those together. You want private access to the cloud, we can do that. SD-WAN's capabilities just continue to grow, and I think what you're going to see finally is you're going to see some consolidation in the industry as the clear winners are starting to come out in the Gartner reports and things like that. Certain people are starting to be consistently at the top. And I think you'll see some of those low-end players kind of try to get out of the market.
Okay. We have a couple of comments in chat that I want to visit real quick. Bob Pruitt has a comment that he hears quite often that he wants to run by you and see how you would kind of address it. He hears that SD-WAN is just VPN tunneling over the net, and they've already been doing that for years. How would you counter that statement?
On a low-end solution, that's exactly what it is, right? If you're looking at a low-end solution, it's just going to be tying VPN tunnels. Higher-end solutions have their own wrappers around that create additional layers of security, right? And we've been through this with a lot of banks and things like that. Or, what's different between, your tunnel and my IPsec tunnel? Well, at the core, SD-WAN, a lot of them just use 256-bit AES encryption. But then what is on top of that, and it's, that software on top of that, the ability to seamlessly send traffic across multiple tunnels and put it back together is different than regular IPsec. The ability to have that traffic natted in the cloud is different from IPsec. And just the ability to have a, hub and spoke model versus an any-to-any model with cloud gateways is different from just traditional IPsec. It really, what it comes down to each individual user is, how are you using your network, right? And that's why there's not just one flavor of SD-WAN that fits everybody's needs. You really have to have a conversation with the customer. How are you using your network? How is it that you're trying to use this technology to move your business forward, right? What are your individual goals? But yeah, a low-end solution in my mind is really no different than just an IPsec tunnel. Just do it yourself.
Okay, we have one more comment in chat that I'd like for you to hit real quick. So Aaron says that, they'd argue that from a security perspective, SD just doesn't compare. It's at best not even enterprise grade. Could you ease their minds from a security perspective? Because for me, when I think of security and I think of SD-WAN, the only thing that jumps into my mind is, well, Fortinet has an onboard SD-WAN button that you click, and that's about it. So can you ease people's minds who have security concerns from an SD-WAN perspective?
So I don't know that I can ease everybody's minds. If you're fearful of SD-WAN, maybe you just haven't been looking at the right ones. We've had absolutely zero security problems out of our SD-WAN vendor. I mean, we've had zero breaches into the box, and maybe that's the way that you set it up. We don't use a vanilla solution. We own our own infrastructure, our own hardware. We control our own code. We're one of the largest, vendors partnering with our SD-WAN solution provider. So we give them bug feedback, and they give us access to the new software early. We do all of our own thorough testing. But like I said, we've run this through some of the largest banks, in the U.S. and been able to satisfy their security requirements, right? And I think that if we can satisfy as much security requirements as there is around the banking industry, that we can satisfy your security requirements. If it's something that you need, like you want AD integration or something like that maybe SD-WAN just hasn't been able to offer you in the future, there's ways around that as well. We're working on solutions like that as well. But I mean, at its core is 256-bit encryption not good enough for you? I mean, I don't know.
So I'm actually, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but it almost sounds like too much security sometimes. Because I'm thinking from a customer's perspective where they're probably going to be encrypting over your tunnels anyway. The traffic is probably over SSL, or it's over an IPsec within the SD-WAN wrapper, also SSL encrypted. Is there such thing as too much encryption? Does that affect speeds or reliability or anything of the solution?
Yeah, so we expect about 30% overhead with an SD-WAN solution is what we typically see. So that compare that with Ethernet or DSL technology, where you typically see anywhere from 10 to 15%, right? So we try to take that into consideration. We do have customers that insist on encrypting across that as well, and then that's just one of the things we talk about. Hey, we need to make sure that you're going to be able to get enough throughput. But like I said, the hiring technologies and being able to aggregate that bandwidth, a lot of times you can overcome those sorts of things in that way. SD-WAN is really a great solution for remote locations, and even we can scale SD-WAN to be the hub at like a data center location. But if you just need something like a 10 gig wave point to point, SD-WAN is still not a good solution for that, right? It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. If you need to be backing up two data centers to each other, I would suggest you still stick with the traditional technology like point-to-points or wave services, and just don't even mess with SD-WAN at this point in time. It's just not there yet.
Man, we're running a little long, Ben. So I want to just kind of start tying things together and finish up here pretty soon. Eric, you've talked about connectivity for a customer, quite a bit. What does the future look like for enterprise connectivity underneath the SD-WAN kind of umbrella, so to speak?
Get your crystal ball out and tell us the future.
Yes. Show me some tarot cards.
I would say that, everybody gets really excited about 5G. I get asked about 5G every time I talk to a new customer. Is 5G going to change connectivity?
I can't wait.
It could.
I can't wait.
I think that, you're going to see 5G roll out with the possibility of the return of unlimited data, and that would be a game changer. We're seeing a lot of people put pause on their caps right now. I don't know what the U.S. will look like after we all start, restarting the economy and maybe getting back to work. But hopefully unlimited data plans and things like that will start to stick around. They're starting to stick around, in residential services. But we're also seeing things like carriers offer, plans that block streaming or non-business applications. So 5G paired with that type of plan might be something that could make a wireless solution as primary access really attractive to a solution. I don't think you can forget about the wireless technologies. Wireless as the last mile is continuing to be a good offering. We have 10 gig wireless point-to-points that are available. As far as a redundancy solution, that's a great offering. And, I wouldn't, play out the traditional technologies either. The government's continuing to put money into residential broadband build outs in suburban areas and rural areas. And, DSL, when we were all starting out with 10 megs, and now DSL can get really, really high speeds, up to a gig, certain type of bonded VDSL, solutions. So, DOCSIS continues to improve as well, right? So I think that you're just going to see higher and higher bandwidth. So as much as access is an overall commodity, I just think you're going to see more innovation as far as, the ability to increase those speeds, especially as the distances between, whatever's serving that speed and the last mile, tend to shorten up.
To me, it sounded like you just said triple play is still here. It's still going to be here in 5 years. I remember those books from like 2004, The Future of Broadband, triple play. Okay, that's awesome. Really, the one thing that I would have to say is, man, Eric, we grilled you hard, and I thank you so much for putting up with us and being our guest today. You're amazing, and I didn't even make fun of your spelling one time today.
I have not had a spelling mistake in our chat since the deep learning guy came on. So he sticks to me. Deep learning really is a thing, and it works. So.
Hey, before I let you go, Eric, I do want to ask you one more question, man. With the situation kind of the way it is today, I'm seeing a lot of customers not as eager to spend money right now. A lot of them are really kind of more focused on just keeping the lights on and keeping their employees employed and keeping paychecks going out to their hands. And so a lot of customers are looking at ways not necessarily to spend money, but to save money. So when we start talking about SD-WAN solutions and costs, how can an SD-WAN offering actually help save a customer money in times like this?
If you have expensive fiber access and you replace that with residential grade access, you can save money, right? Especially if you have a larger network, right? And you talk about economies of scale. It is possible. I've seen lots of solutions where we offer customers twice the bandwidth by moving away from a single fiber access that's an MPLS solution to dual broadband accesses, where the customer is either doubling their bandwidth for the same price or getting it cheaper by moving to like a broadband and a 4G backup, right? It is possible to do it that way. It just comes down to what really is available in your area, right? If fiber access is the only thing that you can get reliably in your area, then it doesn't really matter. That's what you're going to have to stick with, because it doesn't matter which SD-WAN solution you go with. If the underlying access isn't up to snuff, you're just not going to have a good experience no matter what. If you're going to drop packets all day long on both your circuits, you're going to think your SD-WAN experience is horrible, and it really won't have anything to do with that. It's like the tires in your car are bad, then your performance experience on that car are going to suffer, right?
Yeah, a lot of times I get involved with conversations with customers and sales engineers, and they all focus on the overlay solution, the overlay this, the VXLAN that, what have you. They very rarely talk about how important the fundamental underlay network actually is to the entire customer experience. So I'm glad that you did say that. All right, Ben, I've got nothing else. That's kind of all the points that I wanted to hit, and it sounded like Ben was kind of wrapped up as well. Any closing comments for us, Eric, before I turn you loose, buddy?
I'm glad you guys had me on. I appreciate it, and love the podcast. Let's keep it going. I'm not having the podcast yet.
All right.
You should start a podcast.
Interesting thought. We'll have to mull that over and see what we can come up with. All right, that's it. Now we move on to the last segment of the day, the call to action, where I typically leave you guys with some action items or words of wisdom, hopefully related to the topic that we had. And today I've got some, but I don't want to actually use them today because something came to me kind of while we were talking that I want to leave you with. This has all been about opportunity. You've had the opportunity to, make yourself better. You have the opportunity to analyze the way that your business is going and why you're making the decisions that you're making. Another opportunity that you have during this time, at least most of you, is the opportunity to be a better parent, to not be like me and stay in your office avoiding your kids, but to actually go out and spend time with them, spend some time doing activities with them on a daily basis. We all have an opportunity right now to be more present in our children's lives. So take take advantage of the time now. Go be a better parent. Thank you all for joining us today for episode 4 with Eric Bull from Windstream on SD WAN. If you liked the episode, if you like the content, if you like what Ben and I are doing, do all the normal stuff, like, comment, share, and subscribe. And if you want to engage with us directly, like you saw today, you can do it in chat when we're live, or you can send us an email at technologyrecess@gmail.com, and Ben and I both have access to that mailbox, so we'll both be monitoring and engaging with you pretty quickly. Other than that, join us next week for Ben is now making fun of me off camera like I did him. Join us next week for episode 5 with, I always want to say Yoel now because I call him Yoels, Joel Brown, and talking about technology hurdles with small business. Until then, bye everybody.